Danny Acosta here for the Welterweight.com. Jon Fitch, UFC welterweight, fighting at UFC 156 versus Demian Maia. You fought on the same card with Maia in Brazil. Did you expect that fight would happen? Were you looking to Demian Maia as your next opponent?
I had a sneaking feeling. I'm pretty good at seeing the future sometimes, and the second I saw him and we were in the same practice room and I saw how big he was, I was like, man, this guy's huge. I was like, I bet they're going to make me fight him next. I had all but figured that Rick Story would be able to defeat Maia, so I was pretty impressed with how quickly he just took him down, went right to the back, and then choked him pretty quickly. And then the press conference, they started asking right away if they thought it was going to be a matchup between me and Demian. So I was kind of mentally prepared for the fight right away.
Coming off the fight of the night performance against Eric Silva, you've never lost back-to-back fights in the UFC. What did it mean for you because that win obviously was very emotional for you?
That was huge. I needed it for my career. I needed it for my family. And it's a great feeling to have your back put up against the wall and know that you only have one option to succeed and succeed in a certain way, and to be able to do it. I'm very proud of that.
Is that the biggest win of your career?
Under the circumstances, I would have to say so, just because I've never been quite painted into a corner like that, and it really brought the best out of me.
So with your fight against Eric Silva, you got a bonus. It was the first time you got a bonus with the win. It was only your second bonus in your UFC career. Talk about what that bonus meant to you in terms of money, but also did it change your attitude toward fighting in terms of I'm going to go out there to get a bonus and perform versus just winning?
I mean, the big thing with me is that I've changed kind of my confidence is at a point where I believe that my skill set's at a point where if I make a mistake and I take chances that I'll be all right. Even if I get put in a bad spot, I'll be able to fight back and come out on top. So just knowing that does create for more excitement, and I'm more than willing to take a little extra money home if that's a possibility. So I'm just gonna I look at this as like the beginning of the second half of my career, because I've been in the game for 10 years now, and I'd love to fight for another 10. So. I think this is the second chapter, and I think it's going to be a better chapter.
A lot of people don't know, but you had a full-time job until you fought Diego Sanchez. Through that fight, you were looking at potentially getting a full-time job before the Eric Silva fight if things didn't go your way. What was that like, that process of having to mentally say, I've been a UFC fighter for years now, I might have to go, but what would you even do?
I mean, it's a matter of just survival. You got to do what you got to do, and it wouldn't have been, probably a full-time job. I probably would have had to gone back to the bar scene and worked as a bartender or a bar back, and made a little extra cash that way. It helps pay the bills sometimes when you need it.
You talked about being painted into a corner. Was Eric Silva, being a young guy, being someone the UFC was trying to build up, did that add to it? And going through that fight with him, do you feel that he's a real deal welterweight?
Yeah, I do. I mean, watching his fights, he is a very, very dangerous threat at 170. So that was, motivation in itself to prepare for that fight. I knew that he was going to be a handful, and I had to be on my A game.
How do you plan to maintain being unchokeable against a guy like Demian Maia, a guy who's considered one of the best grapplers in the game?
In a situation with someone like Demian Maia, avoidance is the best policy. If I can avoid anything around him being around my neck, that would be preferable.
And so with Demian Maia, what does he represent as the first step in this next chapter, this new chapter of your career?
I mean, that's the other thing I'm doing for this next chapter is just focusing one fight at a time. And I'm not really even paying attention to what else is going on in the weight class. I'm just worried about this one fight. The only fighters right now that exist in this weight class for me and are me and Demian Maia in this fight. So that focus is going to help the way I think it did with the fight with Eric Silva.
Being a perennial contender for as long as you have been, is that something that you feel was taking away your focus, focusing on the title?
Yeah, I think when you're going into a fight thinking about, what's this fight going to get me, where am I going next, who are my next opponents, it does, even if it's only a small amount, it does take your focus away from the job that needs to be done in front of you.
You've got a birthday coming up in February. How old are you going to be?
Well, on my scale, I'll be 25 because I think we should be able to count up to 30, and then once we hit 30, we get to count back down to 21, and then, we count back up again. So, it'll be my second 25th birthday.
So, because you said you wanted to fight for 10 years, going forward, so that means you'd fight till you're 45?
About 44. That's a good number, I think. If I'm healthy and I'm enjoying myself, I mean, why not? I think it'd be a lot of fun. I might slow down to one fight a year by the time I hit 40, but if I'm enjoying myself, why quit? Why you love?
Obviously, you said you're not focusing on a title, but George St-Pierre is the guy, someone that you'd like to avenge at some point. What would you say to fans who say they don't want to see Jon Fitch fight George St-Pierre again? Because now, at this point, it's going to be about 6 years since that fight happened.
Yeah, I mean, what makes these people experts at who can win and who can lose a fight? Since when have fans been right about anything? Don't get me wrong, I love my fans and all the fans out there for the sport, but you're not rocket scientists when it comes to the fight game and who's capable of fighting and beating who.
15 minutes or less, Demian Maia, UFC 156. What are we going to see in the cage?
I think we're going to see a multi-tiered, fast-paced fight. Demian, he's the type of guy who could drag me out into deep waters in his game, and I'm the type of guy who could drag him into deep waters into my game. It's going to be interesting who can force who in each other's pool and drown the other guy.
UFC welterweight Jon Fitch.